Well, in order to understand Napoleon, let's kind of back up all the way to ancient history. It's actually quite interesting to see how great leaders, whom Napoleon modeled himself after, actually operated and how they were seen by others. So, for example, you take leader Julius Caesar. One of the great commentators of his own day, Cato, said of Julius Caesar, he was the only one of the revolutionaries to undertake cold sober the subversion of the Republic. It's something curious that Cato, who saw Caesar as a revolutionary, is a very curious term in how it's been translated from its classical Latin into modern English. It's a very curious term used to describe Caesar as somebody who tried to overthrow the former Roman Republic and installed himself as some kind of dictator. In fact, Caesar was elected first dictator, which in ancient Rome was a 6-month-long position, but then, of course, was elected dictator for life. We're going to see similar things in the life of Napoleon, who tried to recreate that old Roman Empire with himself as the head. But then, of course, we come to other characters like Alexander the Great. Plutarch, the great Roman historian, said of Alexander that he was a common emissary sent from God to harmonize and reconcile the whole world, bringing to all men peace, concord, and community. This really is a great view of how the ancients saw their great leaders. In fact, there'd be later ancient commentators who would see Caesar in the same light. He was essentially a son of God, like Alexander. In fact, the Caesars, as they rose to prominence as Caesars, and especially as they died, it was thought that they actually became divine. In other words, they themselves were seen in terms of what we call apotheosis, which essentially means something like the appearance of God, something like the coming of God into the flesh itself. And so we're going to see that Napoleon really fits into the same sense, because Napoleon was seen in many and by many as being the true Messiah, as being the true son of the revolution who would bring harmony and brotherhood to the world, beginning with Europe. After all, the revolution sought to free people everywhere, and Napoleon was that force.